Hello, I'm Rob.
And I am Rob as well.
And welcome to Marmalade. And this is a little bit of a special episode because we are looking back over the games that stood out for us over the last year for one reason or another. So this isn't necessarily a best of last year. This is just the games that stood out for us.
Wow, he's burying the lead. Here's something you usually say on the first episode of a new year. Right, call me old-fashioned. But then again, what the time we're in, I don't think it can be this. But I'm going to go on ahead and say it anyway. Happy New Year, everybody.
Are we in the new year? I have lost track of what day it is.
Yeah. Yes, we are. Whether that is a fair assessment of what the next 12 months will be, we shall see. But I'm still going to wish people it.
Yes, Happy New Year. I am sorry that I didn't do that first.
So now, whiz back a bit and
yeah,
get back
what
on
I was
the
saying
train.
at the beginning. Anyway, start as you mean to go along. So, looking back over the previous year and games that stood out for us over the previous year.
Well, I think a nice way to say this, I mean, people play all the new games. A lot of people play like brand new games the second they come out, and they're very much, as content creators like to say, they're part of the conversation.
Yeah.
Isn't that nice? However, there's a just as large a group of gamers who don't really like that. They wait for games. They take their time. They sow their oats in other parts of games culture. So this episode is kind of a testament to that. It's a testament to backlogs. It's a testament to trying things out because they're now cheap.
Yeah.
So instead of saying these are 12 games that 2020 was whiz bang pop amazing, it's more like here are some games that we played for the first time in 2020 that really connected with us in some way, which is a different thing.
Yeah. The first one for me, I'm going to get this out of the way because a lot of people have been talking about the new SpiderMan game, Miles Morales. Well, I didn't actually get around to playing the original SpiderMan game until earlier on this year. And the thing for me is I've played a lot of Spider-Man games. In fact, I've probably played 90% of the Spider-Man games that have been released on computers and consoles. The weird thing is, in terms of mechanics, there are a couple of games that stand out. Spider-Man 2, the original Spider-Man games, and weirdly, Ultimate Spider-Man, that weird cartoony one with Venom. That one stands out as well because they really had good swinging mechanics. And then you have this new Spider-Man game that came out and everyone's talking about, oh, it's such a joy, and everyone's talking about it, and I'm looking at the videos of it and thinking, okay, I'll get around to that at some point, and it kept getting put off. Played it this year, and I thought, wow, this is really fun.
Well, it took me an ages to play it because I'm a eternal tight fist, and I won't pay a certain amount of money for a game, and I was waiting for Spider-Man to drop, and it took ages for it to drop.
Yeah, because that many people enjoyed the game. But
then I got it, yeah.
The thing that I liked about the Spider-Man game was that was the way the story went, and I don't think it's a spoiler to talk about it now. Everybody knows how the story went.
Yeah, I wouldn't say everybody. There's always that one person, isn't there?
Okay, just in case there is a spoiler ahead.
There's always that one Hans Mole man, isn't there?
Yeah, there is. So just in case there is a spoiler ahead, so if you want to just put your fingers in your ears and go la 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 right now, then we'll tell you when you can stop.
Don't do that because your older brother will come by and punch you in the arm for being an idiot. So there's other ways to be quiet and do that. Skip on the timeline a little bit. That's a more conventional method.
So anyway, you missed what I said. I said put your fingers in your ears and go la la la, and we'll tell you when to stop.
Oh, right, yeah.
The whole ending of Spider-Man I thought was quite bold with the death and the funeral and everything, and I thought it kind of mirrored what Rocksteady did with Batman Arkham City to a degree. In that they
Which
made
one was
a bold...
Arkham City again?
Arkham City was the second one.
Is that the one where, spoiler alert for game which is about a decade old now,
Yeah.
Joker dies?
Yes. And I thought doing that with Spider-Man, doing a similar thing with Spider-Man, not with Spider-Man's nemesis, but with someone who's very close to Spider-Man, actually having that was a very telling moment. And it was a lot more mature and a lot more advanced. Because in the comics, they have killed off Aunt May in the comics, right? And there's a notorious Spider-Man comic called One More Day. Do not read it, okay? It's awful. Just ignore that. Ignore the fact that I've said anything about Spider-Man comics. Ignore that. Do not look for it. Don't talk about it.
I'm not sure now if he wants me to edit that bit out, what he just said. So
Now leave it in, but just everyone who's listened to this, ignore it, okay? Just Spider-Man 1 More Days does not exist.
Oh, I'm trapped in a sci-fi conundrum now. I both exist and don't. I'm Schrodinger's podcast editor.
But yeah, Spider-Man, I loved it. I thought it was great. But I will say, it does wear down a little bit quick as well. The thing that keeps the game going is the swinging mechanic across the city.
Yeah, the side missions. I can't remember the name of the girl who keeps on giving you challenges and say, Screwball, is it? Screwball challenges.
Yeah.
And that's in the DLC for the original game as well, and it's just hateful. It's a hateful character.
Do you know what I really like?
And running after pigeons, because that is basically...
God, yeah. I hate the pigeon ones.
Terrible side content.
The thing that I liked about Spider-Man in particular were the internal monologues that Peter Parker was having when he was on the job, especially when he's liaising with the detective, and he's thinking he's like Detective whatever it was.
Spider Cop.
Yeah, Spider Cop, that was it.
Yeah.
So that I thought was quite fun and very Peter Parker.
It's my one platinum.
But the only one?
Yeah.
Ever?
Yeah, I don't really do platinums.
Wow, I don't think I've ever done a platinum because I'm not really a trophy person.
Anyway, I'll throw out my first quicko. It's Judgment, which I've talked about probably too much, but essentially I can boil it down into the fact that it makes a series which is as long in the tooth as Yakuza feel fresher than it ever has by slightly remixing Kamurocho, by adding a whole new gallery of characters, the power mechanics, putting in things like drone control and drone races and private investigation, all this stuff. And the story's really well played out, and it genuinely feels like a major thing. Whereas in Yakuza games, it's kind of like, I'm a Yakuza, and you're going to be a Yakuza, and I don't want you to be a Yakuza because I'm a Yakuza, and I want to punch you with my shirt off. And that's about as complex as the stories get, whereas this was kind of a bolt of energy that made that town and universe feel a bit more alive than it has in a while.
I was talking to my nephews, my brother's son and my sister yesterday, and I was talking to them about video games that they should play, and Yakuza was one of the games that they asked me about, like the new one, Yakuza Like a Dragon. I said, okay, you can play that one, or you can play the original Yakuza games, Yakuza 0 all the way through to Yakuza 6. And I've got to say, Yakuza 0 and Yakuza Kiwami 1 and 2 are amazing games. You should try those first. Totally try them.
And 6.
Yeah, and 6. Song of Life is great as well. And they said, so what is Yakuza about? And that's where I got stuck.
It's about Yakuza being Yakuza and punching people with their shirts off.
No, because the next question was what threw me totally. They said, what's it about? What can you do in the game? And
everything.
Yeah, that was my answer. I went, you can do everything in the game. You can go singing at karaoke. You can play old video games. You can play darts. You can chat up girls. You can do...
You can chat up webcam models, Rob. Be specific.
Yeah, webcam models. You can basically, you can catch thrown babies. You can play baseball.
And there's a thing, you learn about sort of shops that are in Japan as well. Like, I didn't realise there was this sort of red light district where you could go into a shop and take pictures of buxom women for a fee. And I thought, well, Japan, I'm learning something about you through Yakuza, so it's filling a public service. I'm not saying that sort of I want to go and do it, because I'll probably be classic Englishman where I try to, like, say, you're better than this and try to rescue them. Because I got a friend who worked at an old place try to do the same with streetwalkers in Rome, so it's a thing. It's programmed into us. We can't help it, Rob.
The classic British gent. But yeah, trying to explain...
That's Yakuza. Yakuza's all at the heart of that,
yeah. Trying to explain Yakuza to a teenager is... Just try to explain Yakuza, the whole franchise, to a couple of teenagers.
They'll probably love it eventually.
Oh yeah, I said, look, if you like anything like anime and manga and stuff like that, then you're gonna love Yakuza.
Yeah. Okay, right. So your first main one.
So yeah, my first main one, because Spider-Man was more of a mention than anything else, and big one for me for this year was the remake of Sakura Wars. It really stood out for me because you know how much of a fan I am of certain titles, the Italia franchise, but also Sakura Wars.
Terrible anime JRPGs. I hear fans of those, so I just, whenever one comes in for a press release, I think, Rob will do it, because I don't care.
Not quite, because there's only a certain number of them that I actually do pay attention to. The Tales franchise is one that I do pay attention to. Let's put it this way, I stopped paying attention to Final Fantasy a long time ago, right?
Yeah.
The majority of JRPGs that come out, I don't really pay attention to, but there are a certain few that the Italian ones, I'm a Terminal fan anyway, so, that just gets put to one side. We don't really talk about that. But Sakura Wars was one that, I've loved the original Sakura Wars game for a couple of decades now. And I've always considered it a shame that it never got a remake. But then this year they did a remake of it, and it was great. It was an amazing game. Okay, there were some bits that needed a bit of polish, and there were some bits where, it just didn't work as well as maybe it did in the original game. But in terms of the overall game itself, it was everything I wanted from a Sakura Wars remake game, and then some. You can't really want more than that. And the whole idea of it is, the whole idea of Sakura Wars, okay, it's so Japanese, it hurts. It's so anime, it hurts. You have a group of girls who are part of a theatre troupe, but they're secretly mech pilots who defend the city from demon invasions. Well, this is the thing, Sakura Wars had a lot of interesting ideas when it first came out, and the year it came out, the year the original game came out was the same year that Final Fantasy VII came out, and the only reason it didn't get number one game when it came out was because of Final Fantasy VII.
So it's 97, 98.
Yeah, but that original game wasn't released in the West for a long time. And so a lot of Westerners didn't actually know about this game called Sakura Wars, which was weird and strange. Let me put it this way, Sakura Wars is one of those franchises that I put in the same category as Yakuza. It's weird, it's strange, it's not your normal JRPG. It doesn't fit into the typical JRPG mold.
I don't care unless it's got a simulator of cabaret clubs. And if it doesn't have a cabaret club simulator in Sakura Wars, I'm sorry, but I just don't care.
There is a theatre troupe, and you have steampunk mechs fighting demons.
That, to a lot of people, that sounds like it'd be more badass, but nah, I just want to run a cabaret club, Rob, and I've got simple pleasures in life, and that's one of them.
Alright, simple pleasures being the case, what's your next one?
I'm not going to rise to that at all. I think this year was the year where I really clicked with Arcane. I like Dishonored 1.
Yeah.
Plenty. It was a solid 7 out of 10 for me. I don't mean that in a score. I mean that sort of as a ethos sort of thing, as in everything it does well. It just didn't have that spark of motivation or whatever, or that spark of energy which just turned something from, this is pretty good, to, wow, I love this is amazing.
Yeah, I felt that way about quite a lot of games this year. They were good, but not great.
Just didn't have that spark.
Yeah.
Dishonored 2 was a bit closer to having that spark, but I'm not a big fan of stealth games because there's two ways you can play Dishonored. You can go through it stealthy and the whole world is sort of pristine, or you can go through it and kill everybody and the whole world looks like a H.P. Lovecraft nightmare. Guess which one I do?
Yeah, I know which one you went for. See, the thing that bugs me about stealth games is that they always take the same approach with stealth games. I've noticed it's always total stealth or total all guns blazing, and there's never that grey area between where you can do like 30% stealth, 70% guns blazing, or 70% stealth, 30% guns blazing. There's never they never do those shades of grey.
That was the major problem with a lot of people had with the Deus Ex games.
Yeah,
but that's another issue. But Prey I played. Prey was a game which a lot of people talked down to. It got pretty middling reviews, honestly. It didn't win any fans. It just kind of it was one of those games which says, I could get Prey, but there's this AAA game which I want instead. So it was slept on by a lot of people.
Yeah, I've got to admit, I'm kind of a fan of what they did with Prey.
I love Prey, because it's the style of RPG first-person game which I adore. It's Bioshock 3,
Yeah.
basically.
Do you know one of the things I love about Prey? Right? I was watching a friend of mine play it, and he managed to avoid the alien by turning himself into a mug.
I never went down that quest line because in getting it, I can't remember the name of the powers, it turns all the security devices against you and it just couldn't be asked doing that.
Yeah. But, yeah, any game in which you can avoid the enemy by turning yourself into a mug is a good game in my book.
Yeah, and it got slept on a great deal. It's Bioshock. It's got this power system which is incredibly robust and innovative.
Oh, yeah.
And its story opens up... Okay, let me put it another way. It's like Dead Space meets Bioshock, and that is basically me in hog heaven.
Yeah, actually, that is you. That's you wallowing in that game.
And it has one of these things which games either get wrong or they get right. Multiple endings.
Yeah.
And this one, it's got a pretty drastic twist at the end. And I can't really talk about it as a twist ending because it's a big bomb drop, isn't it? I don't know if you played it at completion, but yeah, I love that a lot. And apparently, the Moon Crasher, I think it's called Moon Crasher, the DLC, is possibly one of the better DLCs of this generation, I've heard. But that was the thing which affirmed in my mind that Arcane are kind of one of the best developers working today, one of the more unsung developers.
Yeah.
Because they have an imagination there, can tell stories that are compact, that get to the point, and they're not in... Basically, they haven't done a Neil Druckmann. And you say, Neil Druckmann, if you've seen that episode of South Park where Carl's family moves to San Francisco and his dad starts farting in his wine glass and sniffing it and going, ooh, that's tasty. That's Neil Druckmann.
Which conveniently brings me on to my next one.
I don't like Neil Druckmann, so pick up that segue.
It does conveniently bring me on to my next one. Because my next one is The Last of Us 2. And this stood out for me for both good and bad reasons, okay? In terms of the game itself, in terms of how the game's put together, the actual mechanics of the game, everything like that, don't have a complaint, right?
Well, I've heard it was basically about 12 hours too long and really repetitive.
I'm talking about the actual mechanics of the game, not the actual game, not the content of the game, just the mechanics.
No, that's related, because the mechanics get drawn out because you're doing them over and over and over and over and over again for about 12 hours too long. That's the point.
Exactly. But in terms of those mechanics, they're well put together, the environments are really well crafted, the designs are great, you know, the animation's great, everything's great about the production of the game except for the actual story and the characters, right? And
for a studio which values story and characters as much as Naughty Dog, that's a big.
Do you know what? Do you know what annoyed me about a lot of the coverage of The Last of Us 2? And I feel like
cross the bear, sorry, but go on.
I feel like it's okay to talk about The Last of Us 2 now that we're into 2021 because a lot of the angst has gone from it.
It hasn't.
I'll be honest. I don't care. Right? I don't care because
for life.
A lot of people who were giving quite fair criticism were being called transphobe or homophobe or things like that. And like, well, no, they're actually criticizing the game. They're not criticizing these characters or the usage of these characters in the game. They're criticizing the game itself. And their criticisms were quite fair for a lot of them. But gaming journalists being game journalists and, you know, social media being social media.
I'm not going to go into this too much because this is a very tender topic on the internet world. But I think 2020 was basically the year which people's trust in video game journalists
took a
evaporated.
dive.
It evaporated.
Yeah.
I don't think there's much trust for that left anymore.
See, this is the thing. The Last of Us 2 was basically painting by numbers story about how revenge is bad. And I'm like, well, hang on.
Sorry. And violence is bad.
No, painting by numbers about how revenge is bad. Not violence is bad, but specifically revenge is bad, right?
That too. It says violence is bad. Ooh, violence is bad. Look at this physics that make it really, you know, cool to do.
No, because if violence was bad, they wouldn't do the physics that make it look really cool, right?
No, but that's the whole thing. That was one of the points. That was one of the things that the game was called out for being hypocritical.
If you honestly believe violence is bad, you wouldn't make it. It's basically what was it? Sniper Elite, yeah.
Violence is bad and you're sick for enjoying it, but look at how much effort we put into this gameplay.
Sniper Elite does not go around saying violence is bad. Because if Sniper Elite starts going, violence is bad, why are you doing all those glorious slow-motion shots of bullets smashing skulls?
Yeah, it's like Mortal Kombat suddenly saying violence is bad.
Here's the thing. Last of Us 2 was effectively 2 games in 1. Abby's story should have been a separate game, right? It really should have.
They put in 2 and 3 together, didn't they?
Yeah, they basically did. They basically crammed so much into one game, and the two did not mesh. They didn't mesh at all. See, Ellie's story and Abby's story got really, really confusing because the two of them are effectively in one game, and you're seeing the story supposedly from both sides, but you're not. You're seeing part of The Last of Us and Last of Us 2, right? And one of the things that is very, very, very well documented, and a lot of people will say the same thing. A lot of parents will say the same thing. As soon as you have a child, your perspective on just about everything changes, right? Ellie, for a lot of the game, for a good portion of the game, is in a loving, stable relationship, and they have a baby, right? That would change her perspective. She wouldn't be... any emotions she had towards getting revenge for Joel would basically start becoming dimmer.
Okay, let's put it another way. Right. The problem with a lot of blaxploitation movies, is it's hard to be black and the man is... You got to stick it to the man.
Yeah.
The problem is a lot of those movies were written by upper middle class white men.
Yeah.
So it doesn't really know what it's like to be a struggle in black America.
Yeah. See, this is the thing. Abby's story, about going to get revenge for Joel, that actually made more sense than Ellie's story about getting revenge for Joel. Sorry, Abby getting revenge on Joel, Ellie getting revenge for Joel, because Abby had lost basically everything because of Joel.
Yeah.
Whereas Ellie really, for a portion, before she met Joel in The Last of Us, he was a total stranger.
He hated her when he first met her.
Exactly.
Admittedly, there becomes the father-daughter relationship through that, but...
There is a quasi father-daughter relationship through that, but given that Ellie is now a full-grown adult and has her own relationship, has her own child effectively with her partner, that changes the perception of things.
Yeah, let's just wrap it up there, but I will say this one thing, and wrap it up for that point anyway.
Yeah.
In this game, I've basically lost faith in Naughty Dog, and Naughty Dog are basically the castle of which PlayStation 4 was built on.
Yeah.
Or the grounds. And it's going to take a lot for Naughty Dog to win over my interest again.
Yeah, for me, The Last of Us, when it got to the whole point of Ellie deciding I'm going to throw away everything that I've worked hard to build up just so I can get revenge for, for them killing this person, I thought, I'm out. Because this is exactly the same as Lara Croft in the Tomb Raider remake. Killing one person, vomiting, and then becoming this master killer with a necklace of scrotums.
Yeah.
But it is basically the same sort of thing. It's that it's that inconsistent logical leap that basically relies on you being so absorbed in all the shiny details of the graphics that you ignore what's going on in the story. Sorry, I can't do that.
The term they use for it is ludonarrative dissonance, but
yeah,
we'll move on past that. And I'd talk about shooty times with BJ Blazkowicz.
See, if ever there was a franchise that had a lot of ludonarrative dissonance, but you just don't care.
Apparently I had some controversy about it. I never care about controversy after the fact because people get so insular about their views and the world having to cater to their views that they lose sight of a lot of things. And a lot of alternative, maybe conflicting perspectives.
Yeah.
Because people have a thing on the internet of basically surrounding themselves in a circle which confirms all their biases. We're really getting into the internet now, aren't we? The internet's bad. So, basically, I played New Colossus. And I won't talk about it for long, but I love what Machine Games have done. The first one was a very, very good reimagining of possibly the first ever first-person shooter. It was either Wolfenstein or Doom. They're both pretty close to each other. I think it might have been Wolfenstein.
It was Wolfenstein was the first one.
The last boss was Hitler. Yeah.
Yeah, Doom came after Wolfenstein.
Yeah. It was around the same time, though, so...
No, Doom definitely came after Wolfenstein.
Oh, no, but they're all sort of late 80s, early 90s. They're around that sort of time frame. I'm not being within, like, 6 months. I mean, like, within 5 years, they're both pretty...
Oh, right, okay, yeah.
But, yeah, I really like that first one, and this second one builds upon it in every way. It's basically a R-rated Saturday morning cartoon, and it goes through some really wild plot beats, because as the game begins, you basically should be dead. Your cripples from the neck down, and you get a machine suit which allows you to control your body, and have super strength. You go to Saturn, and you face Hitler, and as part of an advert to do a film for a... What was the name of the character? The Violent Johnny or something. I can't remember the name. the Nazi PR machine has given BJ Blazkowicz, because he's basically painted as the Boogeyman. So to do a film about the Boogeyman, BJ Blazkowicz goes to Saturn to meet Hitler, who's the producer of the film. You see what I mean? It's a goofy Saturday morning cartoon, and it's quite grisly, quite emotional, because he addresses his childhood as well. It's just basically, it's hitting all of these weird notes in the script, and it gives you a bad guy, who's the bad guy from the first one, who's genuinely despisable. And I've said this before about Guillermo del Toro. He basically makes these bad guys who you absolutely despise and want to see bad stuff happen to them, but they're presented in such a way where you understand why they are.
Yeah.
And the bad guy in this, again, I'm talking about a game I played in April, so the name's beyond BJ Blazkowicz. I'm not 100% on. But they do a great job with all the supporting cast and the places you go, and it keeps the gameplay fresh by not just having a procession of run along this corridor, shoot that man levels. You have a part of the game where you basically control a giant fire-breathing cyberdog. You ride on its back, and it's yours.
See, I don't need the fire-breathing cyberdog, because I was sold at the, oh look, he's basically a head on a cybernetic robot. It's very Futurama. And
it's set in a 1980s, a future 1980s. Kind of a future, but your military base is a sub, and you do sort of like side missions around it. It's just, when the news broke this past year, Microsoft bought Bethesda. Before that, I was absolutely 100% going to get a PlayStation 5. People focused on that acquisition because of Fallout, because of Skyrim, and all the other games that Bethesda mainline does. But when I heard about it, I was really panicking, because I love Arcane, I love id Software, and I love machine games. So, yeah, that's conflicted me as to what I'm going to do now, because, yeah, as I've mentioned, the big sort of centrepiece of the PlayStation dynasty, which is Naughty Dog, have, I wouldn't say betrayed me, because I'm not as melodramatic as some people on the internet. It's just they've kind of jumped the shark, to use that popular adage.
Yeah, they've dropped the ball. I mean, it's one of those things where CD Projekt Red.
But my point is, new Colossus, adore it, absolutely adore it.
Yeah, CD Projekt Red are kind of in the same boat. We expected a lot. They built up a good reputation for a decade and then spoiled it within a week. But I'm not going into that. Okay, I'm not going to talk about Cyberpunk.
It might be good in a year.
Might be good in a year. I'm hoping it goes the way that Hello Games took No Man's Sky. Because No Man's Sky is a good game now.
It should be. It probably should have been delayed like another year and made the proper next generation title, but far be it from me to say that, because I wasn't going to play it on a PlayStation 4 anyway. I don't think it would have been fair on that game at all.
Well, I think what Hello Games have done with No Man's Sky has been laudable. They basically got their heads down, put their backs into it, and basically started releasing content update after content update and expansion after expansion, all for free.
Yeah.
You know, so anyway. And I think they've earned the right to be respected again. You know, they earned it with all those content updates a few years ago. That, now it's just basically they keep doing it because they want to. So, moving on, a game that caught me off guard really, really, really caught me off guard. And, okay, yeah, there are issues with the game later on in the game because of paywalls and microtransactions and stuff like that, because it is a mobile game. But for a good portion of the game...
Did you play it as a mobile game?
Yeah, I played it as a mobile game. And the thing is, for a good portion of the game, there's a lot of content there that you can use, that you can play, that is accessible for a good portion of the game and all for free. And it really opened my eyes to just the blurring of console, PC, and mobile now. Because this game came out on everything. It was Genshin Impact.
Yeah.
And I know a lot of people are talking about Genshin Impact, but it is one of those ones that I wouldn't say it's a game changer, but I would say it is one of those landmarks in the history of gaming. You could basically stick a flag in and say, this is when Genshin Impact came out, and everybody started paying much more attention to how much the lines are blurred between mobile, PC, and console.
And also, it's the first properly majorly successful Chinese video game.
Yeah.
Like mainstream success, not...
Oh, yeah. Yeah. And Genshin Impact is... in some ways, it reminds me of the Tales franchise. In other ways, it reminds me of Ni no Kuni and games like that. It's got a very anime-esque aesthetic, but the core of the game, what we call JRPG, but I think we'll probably call CRPG, Chinese RPG, rather than JRPG. We don't want to get involved in that argument.
It's like me online. I don't know what I call Chinese anime, so I just call it anime, and I know that's wrong. There's probably a name for it.
But Genshin Impact is one of those games where you can see the echoes of the games that inspired it, and that's why it's appealing to a lot of people, because it doesn't do anything. It doesn't do any one thing particularly brilliantly, it's one of those games that isn't great, but it's like high good.
Yeah, let's put that on the box. It's high good. Sounds like orange juice, full of... that would actually work as a badly translated poster quote from Chinese, wouldn't it? It's not great, it's high good. Yeah. Yeah. It would.
But yeah, Genshin Impact is... it really got me paying attention to mobile games a lot more, because there are other games that have come out that haven't gained the same kind of traction as Genshin Impact, but are worth noting. They kind of fall into the same vein. I've now been playing games like Assault Legends for a while now on my phone when I'm at work, because they're easy to pick up and play games, but I never actually sat down and properly played them in the same way that I did with Genshin Impact.
My biggest discovery this year was Hollow Knight.
Really?
Yeah. I got it we got it for free on PlayStation Plus. I was toying with getting it before that. I was just waiting for it to sort of drop in price a little bit.
Yeah.
And then it came on that, PS Plus, and I tried it once. I thought, what you're supposed to do, it doesn't tell you where to go. This is terrible. Got to a certain boss. I think it was the first battle with Hornet, which is about the third boss. And I thought, this is too hard. I hate this. Why did I make this so hard? And then I uninstalled it again, and then I reinstalled it. And currently, I'm at about 34 hours of my first time playthrough. This is from Team Cherry. I know it's got like a lot of big fandom online, this. For a multitude of reasons. It's a Metroidvania mixed with Dark Souls, because it has that aspect of Dark Souls where you collect souls, or in this case, Geo. And when you die, all the Geo is left in that spot. There's ways around that, but your Geo is left in that spot, and you have to go back to that place, defeat your soul, and get the money back, which is a classic Dark Souls bit, as well as the difficulty curve. But it's one of the best designed games I've played in this generation.
Wow.
Because everything leads... It's got pitch perfect platforming for a great deal of it. All of the worlds are designed. It doesn't tell you any information. The information's all told through geographical sort of setup, so you know what everything means. It all flows beautifully. The gameplay arc isn't too difficult after you get past that initial realisation that it's not really going to hold your hand. But once you got over the fact and you can stand up on your own two legs and understand the gameplay and how it works, it's kind of a revelation. Just for people who play the game, the one I think it was I can't remember what to call them now. It's just before you get into Deep Nest. There's those guards that want to challenge you, and it's been a while since I got to that bit, but that was the point where I was like, yeah, this is cool, I love this. And I just threw myself into it ever since. It's the only game I'm really playing right now.
Excellent.
And it's one of these games where you can play it multiple times, and it plays out differently. And there's speedrunners who have done it in like 45 minutes.
See, I never understood the whole idea of speedrunning. Like, I played the game because I want, the escapism. I don't want to finish it quickly and go back to real life. I want to stay here playing the game for a while.
Yeah, it also has the best sort of graphics of this sort of style of game. There's lots of hand-drawn games. There's lots of sort of... I like what I think it was Girlfriend Reviews described Dead Cells as. What was it? Rainbow diarrhea or rainbow vomit? Because it just colours everywhere and you don't know what the hell's happening.
Yeah.
The design of Hollow Knight is almost pitch perfect because you always understand what's happening. It's always set up perfectly because of that thing that I was talking about earlier. How it establishes rules for each of the kingdoms and you know how everything works. Okay. It's not for everybody. See, I didn't think it was for me, honestly.
I mean, I've been going through that Metroidvania action platformer jaunt of mine recently, so I think I'm going to have to give... Hollow Knight is on my list of games to play, but I'm going to have to bump it up to next.
Honestly, I think Hollow Knight is the best of the lot. I don't think there's really any competition about it. It's one of the best indie games of this generation.
Okay,
Not much really competes with it, I'll be honest.
I know what I'm playing next then.
Because most indie games are sort of in and out. This is an indie game where you could probably put about 100 hours into it. And yeah, I kind of love it. And I'm really looking forward to the next one, which is coming out on the Switch first. Hollow Knight Silk Song, in which you play Hornet.
Okay, right. Speaking of games that, we love, my last one is a game that really I didn't expect to like as much as I do. And even now that I think about it, it puts a smile on my face because of how brash and how bold and just how very, very British it is as well at times. Because the developer, Kaizen Gameworks, are a British developer, and they put out a game on PC and Switch called Paradise Killer.
Okay.
Right, now...
It sounds like a badly translated Japanese title, can I just say that?
Yeah, but this is the thing, the title actually makes a lot of sense once you start playing the game. Because you basically take on the role of a character called Lady Love Dies, right?
And you could also do a deeply racist Japanese pronunciation of it, which I'm not going to.
Yeah, but you take on the role of Lady Love Dies, and the way it works is that the God Syndicate, or the Syndicate as they call, they basically got together and started creating these groups of islands which they called Paradise, and they were basically going through stages of making them more and more perfect, but each time something happened, the island was destroyed. Lady Love Dies, for some reason, which they do go into a little bit, and actually expand on more as the story progresses. Lady Love Dies has been exiled from Paradise, and her current exile is something like 3 million days. 3 million and something days. So she's been exiled for that long. But her exile is over because, it turns out, the Syndicate, the gods that make up the heads of the Syndicate, have all been killed by a mysterious killer. And you're basically an investigator, you're like a private detective type thing, and you have to investigate who the killer is and try and catch them and find out what their motivation is.
This is that basically Vaporwave game, isn't it?
What's Vaporwave?
Vaporwave is sort of woozy VHS electronica.
There's a little bit of that, but there's a weird...
There's an aesthetic to it as well.
Yeah.
Lots of pinks and sort of washed out neons and...
Not quite. I mean, the colours are quite vibrant, I'd say. But in terms of the music style, I mean, the music is something that stands out for me in this game. It's kind of a weird electro.
It is vaporwave. That's what that music. That's jazz. What the music's called. It is vaporwave.
Yeah, but it's got like that jazz fusion thing going on as well.
That's part of vaporwave.
Okay. Then that's vaporwave. But anyway, Lady Love Dies is a really interesting character. She's kind of snarky, kind of sarcastic, and you do meet characters and you have dialogue choices and stuff like that. But it's all part of the investigation. What I love about it is, ages ago we had to review Danganronpa, long time ago, and I always thought the investigation side of Danganronpa was kind of dull. What Kaizen Gameworks have done with Paradise Killer is take that whole idea of first-person investigation into things and use it well. Use it in the way that maybe it should have been used from the beginning in a lot of other games, where you can focus on things, examine them, talk to people about them, talk to characters about what happened here, what happened there, and you can interact with just about everybody. You know, the environments are great, the characters have really interesting, sometimes flamboyant designs.
Okay.
You know, and just the whole game is a delight to play because of you have this colourful range of characters to choose from who come in all sorts of shapes and sizes, and the majority of these characters are gods. There are some normal humans in there as well, but most of them are gods, with all of the arrogance and hubris that goes with being a god. And you have other characters who hate the gods because the gods basically take everything away. They're the normal people, and they have all of the failings of normal people. And somewhere in this mix, you have to find out who this killer is and save Paradise. You basically have to bring the truth back to Paradise and save Paradise from itself, effectively.
Okay.
It's a really, really fascinating story.
Okay, that's fine.
So yeah, Paradise Killer by Kaizen Gameworks is really good. I was surprised. I mean, I made the comparison to Danganronpa, but it's so much better than Danganronpa because it doesn't have all that pretentiousness to it.
So basically what you're saying is it's a terrible game.
What, Paradise Killer?
Because you basically say the bar is set too low to be better than something there, Rob. Danganronpa is garbage. And if it's better than garbage, it would just be terrible.
No.
I know, I'm being facetious. Obviously, it's better than that, but I'm just using that as an opportunity to thrash Danganronpa, I'll be honest.
I know. It's a lot better than that. And the fact that, Danganronpa basically plays like it's on rails. When you go down a corridor, you can only go back, forward, left, or right. Whereas in Paradise Killer, it's a lot more free-flowing, the first-person perspective, so you can look around, you can go straight up to objects, pick them up, you can interact with people. It's like playing a normal first-person perspective game, right? You're not having to go down a corridor and then walk back on yourself and then turn left or turn right to go down another corridor. You just walk down the corridor.
Yeah, okay.
So yeah, that's it for Marmalade for 2020.
Yeah, this is basically the December edition of Marmalade, but we played it a little bit differently because it's the end of the year, so it should be played a little bit differently.
Yeah. Let us know what games stood out for you during 2020 in the comments below, and that's whether they were good or bad. You know,
and
this
new
is
or old.
And new or old. Just the games that you played in 2020 that stood out for you. We're not talking about the best games of 2020, just the ones that stood out for you, whether new or old.
Yeah, basically.
Yeah.
The next Marmalade will be normal service resuming, so what we've been playing through January.
Yeah.
Also on the channel, Impossible Mission will go through a little bit of a change.
Yep.
We might have a week off just so we can get that change sort of moving, really, rather than putting pressure on ourselves to sort of just land feet first, because nobody does that. And also on the channel is going to be a new movie and music podcast featuring Graham of our old movie podcast, Cinema Eclectica, and that new one is called Pop Screen. So that will be going live around the 7th or 8th, so look forward to that.
Excellent. Okay, so that's it for us for 2020. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time.